And good morning. Welcome to another edition of the Kitchings Table here on Awesome Radio, 106.9 FM. I don't know why I keep saying 106.9 FM, WBISLP, Facebook Live, YouTube, Roku, and GPAC 23, whichever platform you need to find us on. Get there so you can hear what today's topic is, because again, we try to find something unique, interesting, enlightening, whatever we think may bring some light into your life. We're all about that. I'd like to thank our host, Miss Akila Thigpen, for always helping us to bring this show to you on Tuesday mornings at 10 a.m., the Kitchings Table. I'm your host, Earl Kitchings. So we're going to jump right into it. So today, our topic is, what are those digits? What are those digits? And you know, a lot of times somebody says, let me get those digits. They're talking about a phone number. What are those digits? That's what we're talking about today, the digits. And what we mean are exactly that. The phone. The phone, the 911 numbers to call for emergency purposes. And we're going to talk about, do you really know how the cell phone works and how that came about and where it started from? We've got all that for you this morning. So we're going to delve right in and ask you the question. Do you know what your phone numbers, your area code, and that 7-digit number, what they represent? Well, I guess one way to look at it is it's the same thing as the numbers on your home or your apartment or your office. It's your address. And that address identifies you individually, especially in this country. In this country, we use 10 numbers. Other countries and international numbers, they use something different. But we're going to just stick to what's going on right here in America and the 10 digits that you use each and every day. And once upon a time, there were no digits. There was no phone. Everything was done via mail or telegram. When the phone came along, everybody started finding out they could get this new device brought to their homes. Did not have any digits when it first started. You had to use a crank ringer to get to the operator, tell the operator the number you wanted to use, and they would connect you. Isn't it amazing how this whole phone phenomenon has changed over the years from a landline to a cell phone line, if you would. Remember the days of the old white pages and yellow pages, the phone book? Remember that? Like a big book full of numbers. If you're in a large city, and in some cities, like when I lived in Atlanta, you had 2 white pages and 2 yellow pages. It was so big. So you can imagine what it would have been like in New York and Los Angeles and Chicago, Houston, places where it's ginormous. But here, we're talking about those books. Well, those books are gone by the wayside. They are, if you got one, hold on to it because it's a collectible. But we have fixed length 10-digit numbers that date back to the 1940s when AT&T developed the North America numbering plan to simplify dialing calls, mostly for long distance calls. And if you may recall, you could dial a local number on your phone, but if you wanted to get long distance, you had to dial 0 and ask the operator to connect you to a number in a city. That plan went into effect in 1951. So the 10 digits, area code, and the 7-digit have been around. So the area code, here's some information, is regulated by the FCC, the Federal Communications Commission, and designates specific geographic regions, such as a city or part of a state. There are 86 original area codes that date back to 1947. Then we get to the prefix, those 3 numbers. And those were specifically a switch that a phone line connected to, and each switch at a central phone office had a unique 3-digit number. Now, again, once upon a time, there were 2 letters and a number. 2 letters and a number. And that was the way you connected to a phone. You called the operator and gave her the letters and the number. Then when they stopped using the operator and you could do it yourself, it was still just the 2 letters, then a number, and then 4 numbers. Eventually, they got away from that. And, now it's local, what they call local number portability, which now computerized switching happens and everything just goes straight through the computer and everything works real good. And then there's the line number. And this was the number that you were calling. And these were assigned to a line, not to you yourself, even though you may have a phone book and you could look in the phone book to look up a number to find out what your number was. And you could get your address of that person. That was a beautiful thing about a phone book. You had the name, address, and a phone number. So those were the 3 links to the phone numbers, the digits. In the international part of the world, the international area code is 011. That's the access code, and then the country code, and then the numbers, and so on and so forth. So as we look at now, we're at 325 area codes, and California has 36 of those alone. 325 area codes. In the 1940s, there were about 10,000 phone numbers. Now there are gazillions. And then technology caught up with the world. In the 1990s, cell phones burst on the scene. Now, they weren't called cell phones when they first started. They were called car phones. You had this box and bag with an antenna on your back windshield with a connection inside your car to this box where you had a phone connected and you could call someone. If you had the bag phone, you could take it with you and make a portable call. But all that was pre what you use today. And when people had that bag phone or had the car phone, man, you thought you were hot stuff. You couldn't tell. If you had it, you couldn't tell me I wasn't hot. I got a bag phone. I can go anywhere I want to, walk around, call you, drive around, call you. Technology has continued to improve. So now we have what we know as the cell phone. And some places, the area codes start out as one ginormous area code, and then it so big they run out of numbers and they have to give it a new area code. So like in Atlanta, which started out with a 404. And when you're doing these area codes and you see the area code come up, you automatically know what city, possibly what state. If they didn't have a big city, one area code covered a whole state once upon a time. But if you see that area code, you know where someone's calling from. But Atlanta, for instance, they now have 4 area codes: 404, 770, 678, and now 407. Now they're about to get another one, their 5th one. Now it'll be 943. So you will have that many area codes to choose from in Atlanta. They've run out of the old ones, so now you're about to be the 943. So somebody, and people like to call off their area codes and make a big deal out of it. I'm from the 904, I'm from the 404, I'm from the 305, I'm from the 202, 212, and it's kind of your moniker. Well, now with some of these area codes, when you call it out, people be like, where the heck is that? The 943. I think between Atlanta's 404 and 770, people kind of know Atlanta. But when you get to these other numbers, man, it's going to be interesting. So we talk about these phone numbers and how they started and where they started from and the evolution of the phone, the evolution of the cell phone from the car phone, because that's where it really, really started from. The car phone spun off And remember all the other cell phone providers way back in the day. Nokia, I remember that one. US Cellular, Alltel, depending on what part of the country you're in, just like with cable, you got different names. Everything is evolving and shrinking. So now, just like with cell phone service, now you only have about 4: T-Mobile, Verizon, AT&T. I can't think of the other one, but they're all out there. Once upon a time, there were a lot of them. And the interesting thing about the phone industry is that when the phone industry first started, the lines used copper wire to send a signal so that you could hear someone on the other end. Copper was a very valuable commodity, and the larger the cable, the more lines it carried. So if you had one cable about that big, it might have carried 1,000 copper lines, So the phone company, they got smart. Scientists and engineers. And I know this firsthand because I used to work at a Marbell. That's what they used to call it. They don't call it Marbell anymore. Marbell, because, hey, one time Marbell was the only phone company in town. Congress broke that up. It's still Marbell, whatever. But, you had different sizes of cable. They manufactured this cable, wrapped it all together and put it in these big cables. So, when you start laying all this phone line all around the country, you got cable going everywhere. But again, engineers and scientists got very smart. They discovered that you could send a piece of information, data through glass, as fine as your hair strand. And if you excited it with light, it could carry that data clearer and faster. And it used less space. So in 3 different things that they came up with, fiber optics, that's what it is, fiber optics. And it probably has something to do with the space industry. So when you got all these intelligent people together and they came up with fiber optics and they gave it to the phone company to develop. And I can remember that strand and watching them produce this and just fine tune it. So you went from this big cable like this that might have carried 1,000 copper wires to something as big as that probably carried 5 times as many wires. And because you could get more out of less, everything got better. So your phone system, your phone lines, it got so much better, clearer. It traveled very fast. It allowed for the phone companies to do a lot of things at their central offices, i.e., once upon a time, the phone company had to send a service person out to either connect your phone, turn it off when you didn't pay your bill, and turn it on when you did pay your bill. They stopped having to do that. Everything was centralized and it was a switch. If you paid it, they turned the switch on. If you didn't pay it, they turned the switch off. If you go pay it when it was off, in a matter of an hour, it would be back on, as opposed to a day or two. So the convenience of engineering and science has created what we now have as phones, landlines, and the cable that bring those landlines to us. And a lot of people are getting rid of their landlines. Some people won't. And we have parents and grandparents who they don't believe in anything but that landline because that's what they knew, grew up with. Cell phones, a lot of them still like to use the old flip phone. But today, cell phones is what's going on. So, as we continue to talk about this topic today, we're going to move on from that information that you now know about to those N11 codes. Well, Earl, what are the N11 codes? Excellent question. N11 codes are used to provide 3-digit dialing access to special services. Special services. And once again, the FCC, Federal Communications Commission, recognizes and assigns these numbers nationally. So we have the numbers, and it's about 8 of them. Starting today, July 19th, 2022, there will be 9. It won't be a 9. It won't have a 11 on it. It will be 988. We're going to talk about the new 988 number after we go through these N11 numbers, codes. So we talk about the codes starting with 211. Community services, that's what this represents. And 211 services provide free and confidential services that help people across North America. Questions about human trafficking, disaster assistance, food, health, housing, utilities, jobs, support for veterans, and other services. You dial 211, it'll connect you to those services. Human trafficking, disaster assistance, food, health, housing, utilities, jobs, and support services for veterans. 311, municipal government services. And this was an attempt to offload non-emergency requests from citizens. You have an emergency, but it's not a 911 emergency. So when you dial these, residents can inquire about anything from trash collecting to reporting graffiti. And in some places, they accept pictures and text messages. So 311 are your municipal government services. 211 are community services. Now, here's the one that's probably the most popular other than 911 because it was turned into a song. It's been used in songs. What's the 411? The 411. And that's basically getting you information. I need the 411 about somebody or something. And the phone company published a telephone book, and 411 information services were established to provide directory assistance or local information. That's why they say they need the 411, directory assistance or local information. And oh, by the way, if you happen to have found, or when they were taking them down, you got access to the old pay phones, if you got access to the ones that were kind of on a single pole, or if you got the phone booth, man, the phone booth that was a phenomenal piece of engineering. Phone booths used to be all over the place. You go into a phone booth, pull the door closed, stick in your coins, dial a number, and get connected. That was the way to connect to people. If you didn't have a phone, that was the way to connect to people. If you were out on the street somewhere, if you had an emergency, you go to a pay phone, pay for the use of calling. So the 411, directory assistance, local information. 311, municipal government services. 211, community service. Then there's the 511, and that provides you with traffic information. So if you're traveling or you want to know about weather, you call this number. Mobile, landline, it doesn't matter. 511 will get you that information. 611 has been reserved for the national, what is that word again? National, that national number. I was looking for my information sheet here. It's a national, where is it? I'll look. Hold on. I got it. North American numbering plan. The North American numbering plan. They kept that in reserve for telephone repair. You got a repair you need, test for lineman on the street, 611. 711, telephone device for the deaf and relay services. That is very important and critical to have that particular number available to people. That came about in 2007. FCC thought it was important to have that. So they created that for people who have hearing deficiencies, who are deaf and need to make phone calls. They have special equipment, special phones. So they have to utilize that phone number. Then we move on to the 811. That was established in 2005, and it's a universal number that works with underground public utilities. It's a safety measure involved with this. So if someone is getting ready to dig in the ground and dig up something, cable, gas lines, pipelines, whatever, you need to call that number so they can tell you where those utilities are located before you dig, hit one, cause some tremendous problems. You hit a water main, it's a tremendous problem. You hit a gas line, a spark with a metal piece of equipment could spark a flame or spark, and that gas ignites, boom. So you need to call 811 when it's time for getting to your utilities. And then 911. Between 411, 911 is the most important number that you can dial on your phone. A single number access for all emergency services, including police, fire, and medical. And you know, when you get ready to use that, they will ask you if this is a medical emergency, if this is an emergency where police need to be involved. That is critical. Use it for critical times. And recently, 911 has almost been on speed dial. And on the phone, speed dial is you've got these numbers that when you go to them, all you have to do is hit a number and it dials a number right away. That's what speed dialing does. So when you hit 911, make sure you know what you're doing. Otherwise, you could run into some legal problems if you're dialing 911 and it's not a dedicated emergency for police, fire, or medical. Make sure you know what you're doing. And once again, today, they launched the newest encode number, 988. 988. And if you think about it, it's somewhat of a medical emergency. So it kind of lines up with the 911. A nationwide phone number to connect to suicide and crisis lifeline. This will connect you with the National Suicide Prevention, what is formerly known as the National Suicide Prevention, but it will connect you with veterans, professionals who know how to deal with people who are experiencing crises, who want to use suicide as a way out to try to prevent that from happening. So 988 is that number. For text, veterans should continue to use the Veterans Crisis Lifeline 838255, but 988 for everyone else. That was adopted today. It launched today, July 19th, 2022. So suicide prevention and mental health crisis counselors are waiting for calls today to get that. So please, if you have someone, if you know someone that is in need of help, dial 988. Other important numbers to have, and I hope this has been informative for you because it's definitely enlightening for me. Other important numbers to have on hand. How about this number? The Poison Control Center. Poison control. Someone takes some liquids accidentally or intentionally. Someone's been affected by some chemicals, even a snake bite. Poison Control Center, 1-800-222-1222. Pretty simple. 1-800-222-1222. In addition to the numbers I have shared with you from 211, 311, 411, 511, 611, 711, 811, 911, 988, here's some other numbers that you need to have handy. Local hospital, local doctor, local dentist, local pharmacy. Just have them handy. Write them down. Put them in a place where you can get a hold to them. You know, another simple invention that came out that has been a big help for making or writing notes has been the stickies, that adhesive piece of paper that you can write on and stick somewhere. Simple, but a great invention. Write those on a sticky and put them by the phone. Your health insurance plan and policy number, and then personal emergency contact list. In the event that you have a personal emergency, who should people contact and what are the numbers? We take all this for granted. When it's time, we're scrambling, trying to find out who should we call, who should we contact. You know, when you have a medical emergency and you're incoherent, they ask you, who should we call? You can't remember. If they look by a phone and find that list, they'll know who to call. Again, these numbers are important. And being that we have cell phones like anything else, like your computer, like your laptop, your tablet, your notebook, they only work if you plug them in and give them the power to do what they've been intended to do. If you don't set them up, if you don't key in the right information, it won't happen. You're going to have problems. And we don't want that to happen to anyone. So think about that when you are using the phone or you need to use the phone, because phone books are gone. You have to get on your computer. You know, you get on your computer and now you can ask for directions or the phone number, how to get to places or call people. So the computer has made our lives a lot easier, although at times we get frustrated because we want everything to be instant, and it doesn't always work that way. So I've given you numbers that you need to be aware of, what they are for, giving you an idea of having a list for emergency contacts and just emergency numbers you need to have for your doctor. And these are important. This is the Kitchings Table. I'm your host, Earl Kitchings, and every Tuesday morning at 10 a.m. on WBISLP, Awesome Radio 106.9 FM, we are here bringing you what you might discuss around your kitchen table. Things of note, things of news, and things of interest. That's what this is all about. That's why we come to you on Tuesday mornings here. You can catch our broadcast also. You can catch our show on YouTube, Facebook Live, Roku, GPAC, depending on what platform you're using. Awesome Radio brings it to you so you can catch us and what we're talking about. Today, our topic is, what are those digits? We've talked about the phone, how it became a part of our lives, how it evolved from a landline to a cell phone and everything in between. Car phone, box phone, bag phone, phone booth, pay phone. Everything now is just cell phone. Gotta love it. Technology. So that is that part of what we wanted to share with you. So now we'll move into our pantry section of our show, which is like the halfway point where we kind of change up a little bit. So we're going to go back to, I know, a question that just boggles the mind. Boggles the mind. You ever thought about how your cell phone works? How that, when you dial on that device, there's no wire to it or anything. It connects to whomever you're calling. You ever think about how that works? The technology involved with a cell phone. You ever think about it? We just are users, and as long as it works, I could care less. some of us are curious to know, well, how does that work and where did all this come from? So taking you back, the Motorola company, Motorola, they've been in electronics for a long time. In 1983, the Motorola Dynatac 8000X arrived on the market. And what was that? The car phone. And by today's standard, that would be considered the old version of a cell phone. And it is a part of our culture. It is a symbol of the past moving forward from a phone that required a wire to a phone that no longer requires that wire. And when they first started, when the car phone first started, it was only for business and professional usage. Not everyone had that. It was expensive. If you work for a company and they got you a car phone, you work for the government, they got you a car phone, then you could ride around and use that phone each and every day. But Motorola is at the launching, at the pioneering part of what we now know as the car phone. The Dynatec and subsequent models were smaller, mobile, and ultimately cooler. Bulky luggage models like the Nokia Mobira Talkman and the Motorola 2900 bag phone. They had longer battery lives and you could talk longer on them, but they were so bulky. You carrying around a bag phone, it's like carrying around 15 pounds in a purse. Popular, however, scientists, engineers, they're not satisfied with what we have today. They're going to keep working. They're going to work their butts off until they get to the next greatest thing. So when we talk about, once upon a time, there used to be a thing where people talked about the eight, the wonders of the world, seventh wonder of the world, the eighth wonder of the world. I guess if you put them together, computer and the cell phone are the ninth wonders of the world, particularly the cell phone. So cell phones came about, then they added voicemail, but the main purpose of these phones were basically to talk. But then again, they kept developing. Somebody kept coming up with an idea, and that's what scientists and engineers do. They're always thinking, coming up with an idea. So the earliest cell phones, which i.e. the smartphones, allowed users to access email. What email became about on your computer, electronic mail. So the fax machine, pager, address books, that went away. Hey, if you got a pager, hold on to it. It's some great trivia, some great memorabilia. A bag phone, a pager, and to this day, there's pagers are still around, but everybody's carrying around a cell phone or two or three. So the cell phone started and it shifted from just being a phone to a multimedia piece of equipment. And then we went from just being on the computer to being able to what they call the World Wide Web, WWW. So that allowed you to do emails, electronic mail, and that's the way folks want to communicate nowadays, electronic mail or via your cell phone. Old schoolers like myself, it's convenient. New generation, man, that's the only way they live with all these apps and things like that. So you start sending photographs, and now your phones can take just as high quality a photograph as a Nike or a Canon camera. Then you got into social media with our platforms with people. Instead of just sending you a text, now they're communicating, sending messages, sending photographs. Entertainment, basically, is what social media is. Just another way for entertainment to be used. Yes, it's messaging, but photographs and videos, all that stuff comes about. So all of these things have come about through the gadgets, i.e. cell phones, smartphones. And the smartphone, when you're typing a text, you can start a word and it'll just pop up the word and you can hit it and it'll keep going. So technology. Now, I will say this. When I first got acclimated to using a computer, everybody were using PC, personal computer. And personal computer, Microsoft versus Apple. And to this day, my personal opinion, nothing is better than an Apple product. That's my personal opinion. When I first got acclimated to using a computer and then I got my Apple desktop, you could save stuff on floppy disk for your computer. You could take your PC floppy disk and put it in a Mac and a Mac would read it. So with the Mac, the Apple, they come up with the smartphones. So the people who work at Apple probably are, I won't say they're the smartest or the smarter or the smartest engineers and scientists, but they stay on the cutting edge of exploring next generation stuff. So they always are at the forefront, but everybody catches up. So now you get all these cell phones and, you get this version and that version and, you get the old version and the new version comes in. And if you want to trade in for the new version, it's more modern, it's more updated. It allows you to do more things. Okay. If you want to do more things, if you want to have more access, if you want to have all these apps for access, social media, playing games, listening to music, a phone nowadays is nothing but a computer. That's all it is. And now with the invention of Zoom, your computer is similar to your phone. So now you get on your computer and you can see people and talk to people. And I guarantee you, if you talk to some people, they'll tell you these ideas date back probably to the 70s, that people had these ideas. It's just a matter of how to make technology work. The evolution of computers, the evolution of cell phones and wireless phones, the evolution of all this technology that has come about over the last 50 years has been amazing. From Alexander Graham Bell making a device for communicating from one house to the next, from one place to the next, from one city to the next, from the telegraph that was allowed you to send a message over lines from one place to the next. Before the telegraph, you had the Pony Express, which took mail. Mail was the first thing. You write something and you send it. Somebody had to carry it. Well, fast forward all the way to today, and you got a cell phone with electronic mail and electronic messages, and who knows what tomorrow is going to bring in the next 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years. It's on the way. But for right now, the devices are at our disposal. You can get as many as you like, whatever plan you like, whatever device you like, however many cameras, lenses on that camera phone that you need to make that photographing so crystal clear and to maneuver and image whatever you need to image. Photoshop, as they say, to take a picture and add or delete things. It's just endless. Satellites carrying images from one place to the next. We are a communication-driven, information-driven society, and that's not going to change because information is all over the place. Now, as we continue this process, let me give you some additional information about electronics, remote radio signals. All this is part of the whole electronic communications industry. The cell phones, electricity and magnetism that zip and zap information through space at light speed, and light speed is 300,000 kilometers or 186,000 miles per second. That's light speed. That's how fast something travels at light speed. So when you see these sci-fi movies and they go to light speed and they go at 186,000 miles per second, that's how fast these signals are traveling. And the electromagnetic energy that's around us is what's going on. So a tiny microphone in the handset lets you speak, and a microchip inside the phone turns these signals into strings of numbers. And the numbers are packed up in a radio wave and beamed out from the phone's antenna. Now, you know, we're used to seeing an antenna as some type of wire device, but it's built in now. You know, it's built in. And the antenna is called aerial. And the radio waves race through the air at the speed of light until it reaches the nearest cell phone mast. What is a mast, you may ask? It's a big antenna. So it sends messages from one antenna to another antenna to light speed. I mean, 186,000 miles per second. That's how fast that stuff is traveling. So the mast receives the signals and passes them on to its base station, which effectively coordinates what happens inside each local part of the cell phone network, which is called a cell. From the base station, the calls are routed onward toward their destination. Calls made from a cell phone to another cell phone on the same network travel to their destination by being routed to the base station nearest the destination phone and finally to that phone itself. That's how the cell phone works. If you did not know, that's the way it's worked. That's the way it's been working, and it keeps improving. And then the cell phones can call a landline. So they found a way to make it work cell phone to cell phone and cell phone to landline. Technology. Thank you, scientists and engineers who came up with all of this technology to ensure that our communication and information, connections, and opportunities are done at such great capacity. So, again, a cell phone is like a radio transmitter sending radio signals over a phone or a radio receiver at very, 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 very high rates of speed. Light speed. And if we didn't have masts, we'd need cell phones with enormous antennas and giant power supplies. That's why when you look at these phones, once upon a time they were this big, and now they're that big. Some of them are a little bit larger than mine. But again, if they're a little larger, because they're computers and a phone tied into one. And that's what technology has provided to us. And it's a beautiful thing until misinformation happens. And when we talk about misinformation, therein lies the next problem with communications. Because when misinformation, or as some people called it, alternative facts, is put out there, people who are not knowledgeable, who don't do the research, who believe whatever they're told at face value, that's when disinformation, alternative facts, and lies take control of our society. And over the last 5 to 7 years, disinformation, alternative facts, multiple lies, huge lies have taken over our society. And people rather believe in that than integrity, honesty, and truth. But eventually, as was said in the Superman TV show, Truth, Justice, and the American Way. Truth and justice, freedom, but truth and justice will come to the forefront and enlighten those unenlightened. And that's what's going to face us in the upcoming months and upcoming years. We must utilize information for what it's for giving accurate information so that people can do what is necessary and what is correct. Again, when we spend too much time criticizing or telling people something that is not accurately true because we have agendas that don't line up with truth and honesty, we take advantage of vulnerable people. So those people who utilize their phones every day and believe that whatever their individuals who give them information every day, whatever they tell them is correct, that's where we're going to have issues. But again, the technology of the cell phone, the computer, is what we must continue to utilize. And it hurts my feelings and hurts my heart at times when people use the phone for nothing other than communication or playing games. It has all this information located when you search and bring it up. But people like to ask questions about, what about this or what about that? I didn't know this, I didn't know that. Can you tell me the answer to this? It's all right there in front of you. Use the phone for something other than games and entertainment. It is a vast weapon, not a weapon, a vast tool rather, of knowledge. Growing up, we didn't have access to right at our fingertips getting information. You had to go to the library, you had to have encyclopedias. Books are the quintessential aspect of what we need for information. Books. People continue to write books based on information that they've found out, researched, investigated. Books. More books probably being written and sold today than in the history of the world. And all this information gets converted into information that goes onto websites and computers. Then you have ebooks and you have audiobooks. So whether you're listening to it or reading it on your computer, people are documenting facts and information that are accurate and honest and true. Follow that. Beware of disinformation and alternative facts. A fact is something that is true and relevant. I don't have any idea what an alternative fact could be other than you calling it a lie. So here's been our information session today here on the Kitchings Table, Awesome Radio, 106.9 FM, WBISLP, YouTube, Roku, Facebook Live, GPAC23, social platforms where you can find us every Tuesday morning on the Kitchings Table. I'm your host, Earl Kitchings, and I will bring you what I believe to be important information, fun facts, some fun information, but I want to always bring you facts, information that is relevant, as accurate, as informational, and honest as possible. So we ask you to continue to join us, share this site with your friends, tell them to join us on Tuesday mornings, and if not, catch us on YouTube because all the shows are downloaded to YouTube so you can not miss one session. We've been going at this now we're approaching our 1-year anniversary. We have 42 shows now. We're approaching our 1-year anniversary, and we're just so thankful that we've been given an opportunity to bring this platform to the many of you who watch. We want to continue to grow it. And we're working on a new opportunity that will kind of line up in the arena of sports down the road. So we're going to bring you another opportunity for informational facts. But until then, tune in each Tuesday morning here on Awesome Radio, WBIS 106.9 FM, WBIS LP, and let this platform, this radio station, bring you into your homes, into your ears, so that you will know a little bit more today than you knew an hour ago. This is the Kitchings Table. I'm Earl Kitchings, your host. Until next Tuesday morning here on WBIS Awesome Radio, we're going to say goodbye. Stay safe. That COVID is still out there. Take care of yourself. Take care of your loved ones. And do something special and good for somebody else today. Bye-bye.